transmission lines. Right, under this, in the previous lecture, we were completed the overhead line insulators. So, on different types of insulators and voltage distribution across the string of insulators and string efficiency. These topics were discussed. Right, now let us today discuss about the methods for improving the string efficiency and testing of insulators, and if time permits we will also solve some numerical problems also. Okay, upon completion of this lecture, you can describe the methods for improving the string efficiency, and you will also know the different testing methods for insulators, and you can also solve the numerical problems which are related to the string efficiency. Okay, you know that what is string efficiency. This about this string efficiency we were already discussed in the previous lecture. So this string efficiency is the ratio of voltage across the total string by the product of total number of discs and voltage across the disc near to the conductor. So this is about the string efficiency. So it is the ratio of total voltage across the string by n into voltage across the disc which is nearer to the conductor. Here n is the total number of discs in a string of insulator. Okay, so for determining the string efficiency, we were also developed the mathematical expression in the previous lecture. So, so this is the mathematical expression what we have done in the previous lecture, right? So the final string efficiency equation is V by 3 into V3. Here, in this case, we were considered the three discs. So this is this diagram represents the string of insulators with 3 discs. Okay, here you are having 3 discs. So each disc is represented with capacitance C. Okay, so here we are having 3 capacitance in the sense there are the total number of discs are 3. So this is the line conductor. Okay, so now as per the definition of string efficiency is equal to voltage across the string. So voltage across the string is nothing but voltage total voltage across the entire string. So this is V. So V by n here is the total number of discs. So here 3 discs are there in a string of insulator. So 3 into voltage voltage across the string which is nearer to the conductor. So this is the conductor. So for this conductor, the disc which is nearer to this is disc 3. So disc 3 is having a voltage V3. So that V3 you have to consider. Okay. So now this V, total voltage V, if you observe, so V is equal to V1 into 1 plus K into 3 plus K. So in the similar way, V3 also we were developed. So that V3 is equal to V1 into 1 plus 3K plus K square, right? So this V1 will get cancelled. So string efficiency will be 1 plus K into 3 plus K by 3 into 1 plus 3K plus K square you will get, right? So efficiency depends upon the value of K. Okay, so string efficiency depends upon the value of K. Here what is K? What is K? Hello, upon joining you please mute your audio ma. Okay, right. So this string efficiency depends upon the value of K. So that K value, K is the ratio of shunt capacitance to self capacitance, or you can say that mutual capacitance. Self capacitance or mutual capacitance, both are the same, right? So this shunt capacitance is the capacitance between the tower and metal link, right? This capacitance. So the C1 is the shunt capacitance. C1 by self capacitance is the capacitance of the each disc. So if you observe the disc 1, the capacitance is C, right? The ratio of shunt capacitance to self capacitance is called the a constant K. Okay, so the string efficiency depends upon this constant K. Okay, you remember this. right? So now let us discuss about the methods for improving the string efficiency. What are the different methods that we can use for improving the string efficiency? Okay, so there are three methods available, which are by using longer cross arms and by using grading of the insulators, or this is also called as capacitance grading. And the other method is by using guard. This can be also called as static steeling. Okay, so these are the three methods which are available for improving the string efficiency. Now let us discuss about each one. Right, first method. So by using a longer cross arm. Okay, as I said before, so the value of string efficiency. So string efficiency depends upon the K. Okay, so this K is the ratio of shunt capacitance to self capacitance. Shunt capacitance. So suppose if it is C1 and this disk is having a capacitance C, so then this way K is C1 by C. Okay. Now if this K value is minimum, if this K value is minimum, if it is decreases, so then the string efficiency will increase. Okay, so if the K value is decreases, then string efficiency will increase from the mathematical expression. Okay, so now how you can decrease this K value? So this K value is equal to shunt capacitance by self capacitance. Okay, so now if you decrease this capacitance C1, you can decrease this K value, so that string efficiency will increases. How you can decrease this capacitance, shunt capacitance C1, right? So this shunt capacitance C1 can be decreased by using the longer cross arms. Okay, so that means this is the cross arm here, which is connected to the your tower, right? If you increase this cross arm, and if you place the insulators, right? If you increase this value, then this capacitance is the capacitance between this tower to the metal link, right? This distance will increases. Okay, so as the distance from distance increases, so this C1 value will decrease. Okay, so when C1 decreases, the term K decreases, so that string efficiency will increase. Okay, so by using longer cross arm, you can decrease the capacitance C1. Okay, so this capacitance C1, when it is decreases, then the value of K decreases, thereby string efficiency will be improved. So but what is the disadvantage here is that you cannot go and increase this cross arm, right? So there is a limit to increase this cross arm length. Okay, so if you increase more than that, it will be more costly. So this will be this method by using longer cross arm, this string efficiency will be increased. So this method will be very rarely used. Okay, so for lower voltage levels, you can use this method, right? Let us go for the next method. Right, and the second method is that by grading the insulators, or this is also called as a capacitance grading. So grading of insulators is nothing but, instead of using same discs, so you know that if you observe the string of insulators, so here we are having insulator discs. Okay, so let us take 3 discs. Here you are having the line conductor. This is connected to the cross arm of your tower. Okay, so let us assume these are the discs in a string. Okay, so now in previous case we were assumed that all the discs are of similar size, so they will be having same size, so that this will be having equal capacitance. So capacitance will be C for all the 3 insulators. Okay, So, but to improve the string efficiency, we will use different size insulators here, right? So this is called the grading of the insulators, right? Grading of insulators is nothing but instead of using same size insulators, we are going to use the different sizes of insulators. So when you use different size insulators, the capacitance value also will change for each insulator. Okay, so those insulators will be arranged in such a way that the C3, so C3 here is nothing but a disk which is nearer to the conductor will be having more size when compared to the insulators which are towards the cross arm. Okay, so when you observe from cross arm, this is a cross arm, from cross arm to the conductor, so the capacitance value will go on increasing here. So that means this C1 will be less than the C2 and C2 will be less than the C3. So which is nothing but the size of insulator which is nearer to the conductor will be more. So if I draw this, disk 1 will be having one size and disk 2 will be having a size which is more than the C1, and disk 3 will be having a size which is more than the second one. So like this, we are using different sized insulator, different sizes. Okay, so this will be having the capacitance C1, this will be having the capacitance C2, and this will be having capacitance C3, and these three capacitance will be such that C3 will be greater than C2, which is greater than C1. Okay, so this is called the grading of insulators. Okay, so we know that this voltage across the each discs will be different, voltage distribution will be different, so because of the presence of this shunt capacitance. Okay, but now when you use this grading of insulators, which are nothing but different sized insulators, you can make that this voltage across the each disc will be same. Okay, so total voltage is, if it is total voltage across the string is V, so this will be V by 3, V by 3, V by 3. Okay, so when a voltage across the each disc is same, so then current flowing through the each disc will be the same. Okay, right. So like this, you can make the voltage distribution across the string very uniform. Okay, so by using grading of the insulators, so you can make the voltage across the each disc will be almost same. So this is called the uniform voltage distribution. So when there is a uniform voltage distribution, so then what may happen? So you know that string efficiency is the voltage across this total string, so which is V, and product of number of discs here is 3, and voltage across each disc, so which is nearer to the conductor is V3. So V3 is V by 3 here. So 3 will gets cancelled. So on VV will gets cancelled. So if you take percentage, here you have 100. So you will get 100% string efficiency. Okay. So whenever you grade the insulators, when you use the grading of insulator or capacitance grading, so in such a case, voltage across the each disc will be almost uniform. So in such a case, string efficiency will be nearer to the 100%. Okay, so like that, you can increase the string efficiency by grading of insulators. Okay, so is there any doubt here, ma'am? So grading of insulator is nothing but we are going to use the different sized insulators, and the size of insulator will go on increasing when you move when you move from this cross arm to the conductor. Okay, size of the insulator if you observe here, so this is a smaller one, then size will increases, then still size will increases. So this arrangement is called the capacitance grading or grading of the insulator. This grading of insulator will make the voltage across the disc will be almost same for each disc. so that string efficiency will be increased. So this is the one more method for improving the string efficiency. Right. Now let us go for the third method. Right. So the third method for improving the string efficiency is by using a guard ring, or this can be also called as static stealing. So here in this method we are going to use guard ring. So guard ring is nothing but it is a conductor, so which is connected between a live conductor. So you observe in the diagram. So this is your conductor. So for this conductor, between this conductor and the capacitor, the insulated disc which is nearer to the cross arm. So this is the disc which is nearer to the cross arm. So between this and here, you will place one guard ring here, like this. So this is called the guard ring. So now this is a metal, and you are also having here between two insulators you are having metal fittings. So between this metal fitting and this guard ring you will be having air as a dielectric medium. So there exists a capacitance here. So that capacitance let it call as C2 here. Between every metal disc and this guard ring there exists a capacitance. Okay, so these are the C2, C3. So already you know that between this metal link and this tower which is connected to the ground, you will be having shunt capacitance. So due to when current is flowing from conductor to through the disc, so this is I. So this I will be distributed to C1 and C3 here, and similarly here also, right? So now here this guard ring will be arranged in such a way that this current I1 will be neutralized by this current I1 dash. Okay, this is I1 dash and this is I1. Current flowing through the shunt capacitance is I1, and current flowing through the capacitance which is between this metal link and guard ring is C2. So current flowing through this is I1, I2, I1 dash. So this I1 dash should be equal to I2 dash. Sorry, I1 dash. I1 is equal to I1 dash. And similarly, so you have to arrange this guard ring. You have to arrange this guard ring in such a way that this I1 must be equal to I1 dash. Okay. So in a similar way, this I2 will be equal to I2 dash. So that means this is this I2 is neutralized by this current. Okay. So when we do like this, so what may happen here? This current, incoming current is at this node. If you observe, incoming currents is equal to outgoing currents, right? So that which is nothing but, so this current and this current, I plus I2 dash equal to I plus I3 dash. Okay, so these two are cancelled. So the current flowing through this disc 3. So this third disc, this is second disc, and this is the first disc, right? Current flowing through the disc 3 and current flowing through the disc 2. So both will become same. In the similar manner as these two currents, I1 and I1 dash are same. So this current will be flows through this disc also. Okay, are you getting ma? So when you use the guard ring, so that guard ring, because of that guard ring, there exists a capacitance between the metal links and guard ring, and there is a flow of current will be there, which is called the discharge current. So that current I1 dash will be neutralized by this I2. So that means the both two will get cancelled. So the current flowing through this second insulator and first insulator will become the same. In a similar manner, if you observe at this node, if these two are cancelled, so current flowing through the third insulator and current flowing through the second insulator will be the same. Okay, because of using a guard ring, the current flowing through the each disc will be same. Okay, so when you use the guard ring, current flowing through all the three insulators will be the same, which is equal to I. Okay, so when the current flowing through the each disc is same, what about the voltage? Voltage across the each disc will also be the same. So suppose if the total voltage between the conductor and your cross arm is V. So then here also you will get V by 3, V by 3, V by 3. So that means voltage is uniformly distributed across the each disc. So the string efficiency will be 100% again in the similar case as previous one. So that means when you use the capacitance grading or when you use the guard ring, the voltage across the each insulator will be almost uniform. So string efficiency will be almost near to the 100. So that means string efficiency will increases. So these are the three methods which are available for increasing the string efficiency. Or you can also say that these are the methods which are available for getting the uniform voltage across the string of insulators. Okay. So if you in your exam, so explain the different methods for improving the string efficiency. If they were asked, you have to write these three methods. In the similar way, the question will be modified like this. So explain the different methods for getting the uniform voltage across the string of insulator. For that also, these three methods you have to write. Okay. So if you are having any doubt in these three methods, or you can text me in chat box. Are you clear with these methods? Right. Let us go for the next topic. So here you have to remember some points here. So the maximum voltage. So these points will be useful while you are solving the problems which are related to the string efficiency. So the first point what you have to remember is that the maximum voltage will appear across the disc which is nearer to the conductor. So right, as I said before, the disc which is nearer to the conductor will be having the maximum voltage, and the voltage will go on decreases as you move towards the cross arm. Okay. And the second point what you have to remember is, so the voltage across the string is equal to the phase voltage. So if you observe here, voltage across the string is nothing but voltage across this conductor and this cross arm. This cross arm is connected to the tower which is connected to the ground. So the voltage across this string is nothing but voltage across your conductor and ground. So which we generally call it as a phase voltage. Okay, you remember this. Voltage across the string is always phase voltage only. Okay, if you want the line voltage, you have to multiply that with √3 actually. Okay, you remember this method, right? Now let us discuss about the next topic, which is failure of insulator. When the insulators will fail, what are the different causes for insulator failure? Okay, so these are the different reasons for insulator failure. The first one is cracking of insulator. Cracking of insulator. What is this cracking of insulator here is, suppose if you observe this insulator, so this insulator will be having mainly three parts. Okay, mainly three parts will be there. First one is the main porcelain body. So this is the main porcelain body. Okay, this is main this part is the main porcelain body, and you will be having another part as steel fitting. So this is the steel fitting, right? And the other one is the cement to fix this steel fitting to this porcelain. Okay, you will use some amount of cement to fix this steel to this porcelain. So these are the three components which we use for the insulator, right? Now you know that the temperature will go on increasing or decreasing depending upon the weather conditions. Okay, so when temperature changes, these three components will also change its properties. So or they will contract or expand. Okay, So when they are contracting or expanding, so then there may be pores will be formed. Okay, the cracking may be formed on the insulator. Okay, so because of these crackings, the insulator will be damaged at a faster rate. So when a high voltage is applied across the insulator, so then it will be easily breakdown. Okay. Another cause for insulator failure is porosity. Porosity in the insulating material. So porosity is nothing but it will be having a small sized holes like that. Okay. So if you are having pores, so when these pores will be formed while manufacturing this insulator, so this insulator has to heated with a high temperature, right? So but when you use the low temperatures, so this insulator will be having some small pores will be there. Pores is nothing but small holes. Okay, so whenever there are pores in the insulator, they will observe the moisture inside the moisture which is across the which is across the this disc. So this disc are arranged used in the overhead transmission lines, right? So this will when this disc is having pores, so they will absorb the moisture from the atmosphere. Okay, so when the moisture is absorbed from the atmosphere, so then what may happen when the voltage increases, then flash over occur across the insulator. Okay, so there should not be any pores while manufacturing this insulator. So you have to design in such a way that there should not be any pores or any holes, right? So now another one for another cause for failure of insulator is that by using the defective insulative material. Defective insulation material. If you use defective insulation material, so then also the insulator will damage at a very faster rate. Okay, and also if you use the improper glazing on the insulator surface, this insulator surface is glazed here, right? So if you are using improper glazing, so then also there will be more chances of failure of this insulator. Okay, so these are the manufacturing defects. Almost these are manufacturing defects. While designing the insulator, you have to take care such that these should not be there. Okay, so the another cause for insulator failure is flashover or puncture across the insulator. So this is not the manufacturing defect. Okay, so what is this flashover and or puncture? So when the flashover occur and when the puncture occur for an insulator, let us discuss. So you know that the insulators are required to withstand for both mechanical as well as electrical stresses. Okay, so electrical stresses, when electrical stresses is nothing but whenever the voltage across the string across the insulator is go on increasing, the stress on the insulator will be very high, right? So those are called the electrical stresses. So the electrical stresses mainly are the flashover and puncture. So these flashover and puncture are the electrical stresses. Okay, right? When the flashover occur and when the puncture will occur, right? So now if you observe this diagram here you are having the conductor. This is the pin type insulator, right? Here this side you will be having pin. Insulator pin will be there here this side, and this pin is connected to the cross arm. So this is your cross arm which is connected to the pole here. You will be having pole here. Okay, so for this pole cross arm is connected, and for this cross arm you can fix the insulator with this pin, and here at the top of the insulator you will be having conductor here. Okay, so now as the voltage across this insulator is increasing, right? So then there is a chance of a spark or there is a chance of arc. Okay, so depending upon the atmosphere conditions, that arc may form across. The arc will take the lower path. So that lower path will be having in this way, A, B, C, right? This is the path. So that is, whenever the spark will take this path, so here you will be having the gap between this conductor and this insulator. So this is the length A, and for this between these two, it is the length B, and this is length C. Okay, if your atmosphere is having some moisture, so that spark will take this path instead of flowing in this way inside the insulator. It will take this path. Okay, so this is called the flashover. Okay, so now because of this spark, that spark will heat up this insulator. Whenever spark is forming here, that spark will heat the insulator. When the heat is more and more, so then the insulator will damage here. Okay, so this is called the flashover of the insulator. Whenever flashover occurs, so there may not be always a chance of breakdown of this insulator. There may not be. Okay, so if this arc is such that it is unable to heat this insulator, so more than its limit, right? So then the insulator doesn't damage here. Okay, when flashover occurs, the insulator may or may not damage. Okay, if the heat produced by the arc is very high, then the insulator will damage. So if the heat produced by the arc is somewhat less, so then there is no damage will happen for the insulator. Okay, are you getting my point? So because of this flashover, there is always may not be the chance of breakdown of insulator. Okay, so why? Because so this arc path is not through the insulator. This is through the air path, which is in this way. Okay, now what is the puncture? So when a high voltage applied across this, so now during this, the current will flow through the insulator here. Okay, very high current will flow through this insulator, through the insulator. So when high current flow through the insulator, so then what may happen? Heavy heat produced, and this insulator will damage here, right? This is called the puncture. Okay, puncture or breakdown of the insulator. Whenever this puncture happens, that insulator will permanently damages. Okay, so whenever flashover occurs, there may not be a chance of there may or may not be a chance of breakdown of insulator. So but whenever puncture is happened, so then 100% sure the insulator will damage. Okay, so you have to remember this. So you will be having here, you can define one term which is a safety factor of the insulator. So this safety factor of the insulator is, it is the ratio of puncture strength to flashover voltage. Okay, puncture strength is here is nothing but it is also the voltage only. As we are going on increasing the voltage, at particular voltage, this insulator may damage or may permanently damage. So this is called the puncture voltage, right? So flashover, at what voltage this arc is forming here in this path, so that is called the flashover voltage. If you take this ratio, so that this ratio is called the safety factor of the insulator, and this safety factor of the insulator must be very high. Whenever safety factor is high, so then when it is high, so this will be flashover voltage will be low here. So that means, so before puncture happen, the flashover will occur across this insulator, so that insulator will not be damaged. Okay, whenever safety factor is high, flashover will first occur, so that insulator will not be damaged. Okay, right, these are the different causes of insulator failure. Right, next, testing methods. What are the different testing methods available for the insulator? Right, you know that the performance of the transmission line mainly depends upon these insulators. So when the insulators were damaged, then the performance of transmission line will also be decreases. So you have to take proper care such that your insulator uh, should be very much perfect. Okay, so there should not be any damages will be there. Any damage, the damage should not be there, right? Right. So before you are going to use this insulator in the field or in the transmission line, you have to test this insulator in the laboratory itself. Okay, you have to create some practical environment, and you have to test this insulator. So when these insulators are passed all these tests, you can say that that insulator is perfect, and it can be used for our practical purposes. So what are the different tests that are performed on the insulators in laboratories? So according to the British standards, these electrical insulators must undergo these following 3 tests. Okay. So the first test is flashover test of the insulator, and the second one is performance test, and the third one is routine test. So these are the 3 types of tests. Okay, again each will be having different tests again. So let us discuss here. So first, if you take the flashover tests, okay, so flashover test of the insulator. Under this flashover test, you will be having 3 types of test again. So which are the power frequency dry flashover test, power frequency wet flashover test, and this is also called as a rain test. And the another one is impulse frequency flashover voltage test. Okay, so these are the 3 flashover tests. Okay, so if you observe the first one, power frequency dry flashover test of the insulator. So in this method, in this power frequency dry flashover test of the insulator, so generally the insulator will be first the insulator should be arranged in such a way that it is practically arranged. So that means, however you are using the insulator in the practical purposes, in the same way you have to arrange that insulator. Okay, after arranging the insulator like in practical case, so you have to apply the power frequency voltage across the insulator. Okay, first you have to fix the insulator, you have to mount the insulator how you can use for practical case. So then you have to apply some voltage across the insulator. So that voltage is power frequency. Okay, the voltage which is applied across the insulator will be having power frequency. Okay, so now after applying the voltage, the voltage should be go on increasing. Okay, up to the some specified voltage, right? That specified voltage will be less than the spark over voltage. Okay, you have to you have to increase the voltage across the insulator in such a way that it should be less than the spark over voltage. Okay, up to some specified voltage you have to increase, and you have to keep that voltage for 1 minute. Okay, so when you keep for 1 minute, the insulator should not damage. That means it should not there should not be any flashover or puncture should occur on the insulator. Okay, so then we can say that the insulator is passed this test, which is the power frequency dry flashover test. Okay, and the next method is power frequency wet flashover test. Okay, so the previous one is dry flashover test, second one is wet flashover test. So this wet the arrangement of the insulator will be similar to the first case. So you have to arrange the first insulator. So that insulator will be arranged in such a way that, however it is used for practical purpose. So in the same arrangement you have to done. Okay, the insulator will be mounted like a practical case. After mounting the insulator, you have to apply the voltage across the electrodes of the insulator. Okay, so now here what is the difference between dry flashover test and wet flashover test is that in wet flashover test you have to spray the water. You have to spray the water at an angle of 45 degrees in such a manner that its precipitation should not be more than 5.08 mm per minute. Okay, so in wet flashover test, so whenever you are applying the voltage, so you have to spray the water. Okay, you have to spray the water at an angle of 45 degrees, and you apply the voltage across the insulator, and you increase the voltage to some specified voltage, so which is less than the spark over voltage. Now, So this that voltage also should be kept for 30 seconds or 1 minute. Okay. So whenever you are keeping these conditions, so the insulator should not puncture or should not flash. There should not be any flash over. Okay. So then the insulator is said to be have passed this power frequency wet flash over test. As you are spraying the water here, this test is also called as a rain test. Why? Because you are creating the artificial rain on the insulator. Okay, you are creating artificial rain by spraying the insulator. You are creating the rain atmosphere. Okay, right. So then under the flash over test, the third one is impulse frequency flash over test. Okay. So now in the first two cases, you are using the power frequency. Power frequency is nothing but 50 hertz or 60 hertz. Okay. But in impulse frequency, you are not going to use the 50 hertz power frequency voltage. Okay. So here in impulse frequency flash over test, you have to create some impulse voltage by using the impulse generator. Right. So that impulse voltage will be having a frequency which is of several hundred kilohertz. Okay. So you know that insulators have to withstand for a voltage which is produced by the lightning. Okay, during rainy seasons, this lightning will occur. So due to the lightning, there will be high voltages will be produced on the transmission line. So the insulator has to withstand for those high voltages. So because of that lightning, very high voltage which is having the a very high frequency will produce. So the insulator has to withstand for those voltages which are generated by lightning. Okay. So to test for those voltages, you have to create that voltage in the laboratory itself. So by using one impulse generator, first you have to produce some impulse voltage, so which is having several hundred kilohertz. Okay. Now you have to apply that voltage to the across the insulator, and the spark over voltage you have to note down. So whenever a spark occurs, that spark over voltage you have to note down. Okay. So then after noting down the spark over voltage, you have to find out the impulse ratio. So this impulse ratio is the ratio of impulse frequency flash over voltage to power frequency flash over voltage. Okay. So this power frequency flash over voltage is already told in the first two cases. So impulse frequency flash over voltage is the voltage which is produced from the this impulse generator. Okay. So now if you find this impulse ratio, this ratio should be such that so it will be 1.4 for pin type insulators and it is 1.3 for suspension type insulators. Okay. It should be not more than this. Okay. So this is about the power flash over test of the insulator. Okay. In flash over test, you are having three methods: power frequency dry flash over test, power frequency wet flash over test, impulse frequency flash over voltage test. Okay. Right. So next is the performance test. Under the performance test, you are having again different methods, which are temperature cycle test and puncture voltage test, porosity test, mechanical strength test. You are going to apply these methods in the performance test. So let us see the temperature cycle test. Here the insulator will be tested such that first the insulator has to heat in the water up to the 70 degrees centigrade. Okay, in temperature cycle test, the insulator first is heated in the water. So in the water, the insulator has to be heated up to the 70 degrees centigrade, and then immediately you have to cool the insulator to 7 degrees. Okay. So what you have to do? First you have to heat the insulator in the water up to 70 degrees centigrade, and you have to keep that 70 degrees centigrade for 1 hour. Okay. And then immediately you have to cool it for 77 degrees, and again you have to keep it for 1 hour. Okay. So like this, this process is repeated for 3 times. You have to heat for 70 degrees and keep it for 1 hour, and immediately you cool it for 7 degrees and keep it for 1 hour. Like that 3 times you repeat. So then after repeating 3 times, you have to observe the glazing of the insulator, right? So when you observe the glazing of the insulator, there should not be any deterioration on the insulator glazing. Okay. So if there is any deterioration on the glazing, so then the insulator is damaged here, you can say. Okay. So if there is no if you observe there is no deterioration, so then the insulator is passed this test. So that means insulator is perfectly suitable. Okay, this is called the temperature cycle test. So then another one is puncture voltage test. Okay, so in this puncture voltage test, the insulator is immersed in the insulating oil and a voltage of 1.3 times the flashover voltage. Okay, in puncture voltage test, your insulator has to immersed in the insulating oil and you have to apply a voltage which is 1.3 times the flashover voltage, right? So then there should not be any puncture occur for the insulator. So whenever the voltage across insulator going on increasing, puncture or breakdown will occur, right? So whenever you keep the this insulator in the insulating oil and if you apply the 1.3 times the flashover voltage, then if there is no flashover occur or no puncture is occurred, so then the insulator will be is said to be perfect, else it will be not useful for the practical purpose. So this test is this puncture voltage test is also called as destructive test. Destructive. So that means here you are breaking down the insulator. Okay, this test also is called destructive test. Right. Another method is the porosity test. As I said, there should not be any pores on the insulator. So now you have to test for these pores. So now for in this test you have to place the insulator. You have to take the one insulator. So from the out of all the insulators, manufactured insulator, you have to select one insulator and you have to break that insulator into pieces. So then these pieces are, after breaking down the insulator into pieces, so they have to immerse into a solution which is having 0.5% of alcohol, so which is alcohol solution, and which is a fusion dye. Okay, fusion dye. So under a pressure of about 140.7 kilograms per centimeter square. Okay, so in porosity test, you have to take one insulator and you have to break that insulator into pieces, and those pieces are immersed in the a solution which is having 0.5% alcohol and fusion dye, and you have to keep a pressure of 140.7 kilograms per centimeter square, right? So now these conditions are kept for 24 hours. That means for 1 day, you have to keep for 1 day. After keeping 1 day, then you have to take out those pieces, right? And you have to clean those pieces, and you have to observe for the penetration of dye into it. Okay, you are using fusion dye, so that dye should not, if there are any pores in the insulator, so this dye will go into that. So you have to observe for that. Okay, so if there is no penetration of dye, so then that insulator will be perfect. If there is a penetration of dye into it, then the insulator will be not useful for practical purpose. Okay, so this test also indicates the degree of porosity. So how degree of porosity in the sense, so how many pores will be there, like that. Okay, right. The another test is the mechanical strength test, right? This test, under this test, the insulator is applied by 2.5 times the maximum working strength of the insulator. Okay, in the mechanical strength test, you have to apply with 2.5 times maximum working strength on the insulator, and you have to keep that maximum strength for 1 minute. Okay, so then in such a case, the insulator should not be damaged. Okay, so then the insulator is said to be passed this test, and this test also determines the ultimate mechanical strength of the insulator. Okay, so these are the different tests which are under the performance test. Right. So another test are the routine test. Okay, Under routine test, you will be having 3 tests, which is high voltage test, proof load test, and corrosion test. Okay. So what is this high voltage test? In this high voltage test, your insulator is inverted and placed into the water up to the neck, and a high voltage is applied for 5 minutes. Okay. So then the insulator should not damage or should not break down, or there should not be any flashover occur. So then the insulator is said to be perfect. Okay. So in high voltage test, the insulator is inverted and placed into water up to the neck of the insulator. So then you have to apply the high voltage across the insulator for 5 minutes. So when you keep the high voltage for 5 minutes, then there should not be any breakdown of the insulator, or there should not be any flashover of the insulator. Okay. So puncture should not be happen. So in such a case, the insulator is said to be perfect. That insulator can be used for practical purpose. Okay. Right. The next test is the proof load test. Right. Under this proof load test, on the insulator, you have to apply a load which is 20% excess to the specified maximum working load. Right. So the insulator generally will be having some specified maximum working load. How much load should be kept on that insulator in practical purposes. Okay. So, but in proof load test, you have to apply 20% excess to this specified maximum working load. Okay. And this load will be applied for about 1 minute. Okay. So if you apply 20% excess load on the insulator for about 1 minute, so then the insulator should not damage. Okay. So then if the insulator is not damaged, then the insulator is said to be perfect for the use. Okay. So then another test is the corrosion test. Right. So this test will be performed like this. So the insulator will be the insulator with the galvanized or steel fitting is suspended into a copper sulfate solution for 1 minute. So for corrosion test, the insulator has to dip in the copper sulfate solution for 1 minute. Okay. So then after 1 minute, you have to remove the insulator and clean the insulator. So then again you place the insulator into the copper sulfate solution. So like this, you have to do the procedure for 4 times. Okay. Under corrosion test, your insulator along with all its parts, along with its steel fitting also, you have to dip in the copper sulfate solution, right? And you have to remove it and you have to clean it. Again, you have to place the insulator in the copper sulfate solution and again take it out and clean it, again place. Like that, you have to 4 times you have to use. 4 times you have to repeat the procedure, right? After repeating these 4 times, then you have to observe the insulator. So if you observe the insulator, there should not be any metal deposits on the insulator. Okay. Here your copper sulfate solution, in copper sulfate solution, you are dipping the insulator. So there should not be any metal deposits on the insulator. So if there are no metal deposits, so then that insulator is passed this corrosion test. So that insulator will be used for the practical purpose. Okay. So these are the different tests which are generally done in laboratory. So before the insulator is used for practical purpose. Okay. Observe here. According to the British standard, you have to, there will be mainly 3 types of tests: flashover test, performance test, protein test. Under flashover test, you will be having again 3 tests, which are power frequency dry flashover test, power frequency wet flashover test, impulse frequency flashover voltage test. Right. Under performance test, you will be having temperature cycle test, puncture voltage test, porosity test, mechanical strength test. And then routine test you are having. Under routine test, you have to do high voltage test, proof load test, and corrosion test. So these are the different tests what you have to perform in the laboratory, right?